Good morning. Okay, so I am a millennial attorney, so I do everything on my own. Well, one, I just want to thank the HEART program, specifically Mr. Johnson, Ms. Renee, who asked me to speak. Public speaking is not a problem at all for me. But when I'm talking about my personal background and a lot of what made me me, it's hard, right? Because you're talking to a group of people that wouldn't think that you were through any of the things that you actually have gone through. I'm looking at the retractable banner you guys have here, and the questions, I check off everyone. Sharing the housing of others due to loss of housing, living in a motel, hotel, or campground, living in emergency or transition shelter. Yes, yes, yes. Living in a vehicle park, abandoned building, or a bus station. Yes. Living in places not designed or intended as sleeping accommodations. Yes. A teenager living on your own. Yes. So, when I came into the HEART program, I was 17, and I was about to graduate from Fort Lauderdale High School, 2016. I got kicked out, and like any other 17-year-old, I figured I can do this. I figured this out. I can take care of it. So I'm sleeping in my car, charging my phone, and I am wondering to myself, at this point, school, going to college is more so way in behind of my mind. I wasn't thinking about it as much as I had been before. At some point, my first period teacher, she asked me, she goes, well, you know, you've been a straight A student, you've been on time, and now you're not. Now you can't even seem to show up on time. So what's going on? I'm gonna have to call home. And I tell her, good luck, because there ain't no home to call. And I got myself caught up in the HEART program. My stint here was very, very, very quick, but it was monumental for me because it launched me to what became a 6-year journey to becoming who I am today. So while my origins are, albeit small with the HEART program, I've taken it with me in everywhere that I've gone. So I want to personally thank the HEART program for everything you guys did to get me here today. So, first, again, thank you, Mr. Johnson, thank you, Ms. Renee, but thank you to you all for being here. I know you guys have your work schedules and your own personal commitments, so it's good that we can all try to hang out with each other in person. It's hard for me to be sitting here giving the send-off speech for you guys. I've heard a lot of keynote speeches, but to give a personal one, for me, it's hard, right? Because I'm talking about my life. So I'll try not to cry, and I'll try to be as brief as possible where I can. And I figured to myself as I was preparing this keynote speech, I'm like, there's no way I can talk about myself for 15, 20 minutes. And then I was like, maybe I can. Not about my life, not about the ups and downs of my experiences. I thought to myself, as I was preparing, I'm like, how can I actually get this done? And then it came to me. I heard the quote that has literally glued my life together for nearly a decade. On June 28, 1964, Malcolm X made a speech at the founding rally of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. This speech was significant. This marked the first speech following his departure from the Nation of Islam. And I'm going to share with you the opening portion of the speech because it's important, and it's the part that I remember over and over in my mind. Salam alaikum, Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies, everybody who's here. As many of you know, last March was when it was announced that I was no longer in the Black Muslim movement. It was pointed out that it was my intention to work among the 22 million non-Muslim Afro-Americans and to try and form some type of organization or create a situation where the young people, our young people, the students and others could study the problems of our people for a period of time and then come up with new ideas and some new suggestions as to how to approach a problem that too many other people have been playing around with for too long. I figured we would have some kind of meeting and determine at a later date whether to form a Black nationalist party or a Black nationalist army. Rest assured, I'm not going to read the whole speech, although I do remember everyone in here. I want you to, I want to recommend you guys take the time to read it. Powerful stuff, powerful speech, great man. But I'm going to highlight the sentence most significant to me in that speech. And millions of people around the world agree with me, as well as Google. Malcolm X said in that speech in 1964, education is an important element in the struggle for human rights. It is the means to help our people and our children rediscover their identity and thereby increase their sense of self-respect. For it is education that is our passport to the future. For tomorrow belongs only to those people who prepare for it today. I've been preparing for my future for most of my life. I'd like to think most of my life was already planned or prepared for me. Some of those preparations led to good decisions, some to bad ones. Overall, I cannot deny that I was born into a web of social stratification. All I did was plan against it or plan along with it. Irrespective of this, education has had a powerful impact on my life and in the life of my family. So let me take a few moments to share that story with you. Can we go back to the first slide? So I was born in Miami, Jackson Memorial. At the end of the year 1997, it was a Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month. Second slide, please. My mom would tell you the pregnancy was planned. My parents will both point the finger at themselves when you ask them who decided to name me. They met at Tony Roma's. My dad was a cook there, my mom was a hostess. They were both from working class Americans. In 1998, women made up 29% of the legal profession. Today that number is roughly 39%. Now I want to stop here and give you guys a few numbers, it's important. I hate numbers, math myself, but I think sometimes you can appreciate them. In 1998, African Americans made up 4% of attorneys. In 2023, that number has only gone up 1%. According to the Miami Herald, in the 1980s, Miami saw a large influx of Haitian immigrants, with 40% of them being foreign-born Haitian. Tens of thousands of Haitians migrated to Miami. Among them, my mother's parents. My mom is at the bottom right, the bottom left, in the middle. My dad, top left corner, guy in the white shirt. That's a picture of me with literally no teeth in my mouth. I was probably maybe 6. I wish I could tell you here today, standing before you, and tell you that I always wanted to become a lawyer. That I knew from the moment that I became consciously aware of myself that a career in law is what I wanted, but I would be lying. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer. He dropped out of high school at 16 to take care of his sister. His mother gave birth to him at 16 herself, and his father, a silhouette that he seldomly saw throughout his childhood growing up. My dad was raised by his grandparents, who did all that they could do to give him structure and love and principle, but ultimately, he took to the streets to provide a living for himself and his family, which landed him right into the criminal justice system. So I grew up listening to my dad talk about the grit of the outside world, and he told me that education was invaluable, that my degree would be the one thing that no one could take from me. He explained how hard his life was, straddled to street hustles and socioeconomical limitations. Still, I looked up to my dad as somebody that I wanted to be. I became determined to become a lawyer, not for myself, but for him. So armed with knowledge from streets, I entered the classroom every day and cracked open my books. Indiana University Center for Post-Secondary Research has a research program called the Law School Survey of Student Engagement. This program revealed that law students tend to have educated parents. Around 73% of these respondents from this program have had at least one parent with a bachelor's degree or higher. 1 in 5 students, which is roughly 20%, have at least one parent with a doctoral or professional degree. And among those students, just over half report that that doctoral degree is a JD. Overall, 11% of those respondents have a parent with a JD. I fit nowhere in these percentages. I had never seen a lawyer before. I didn't personally know any of lawyers. I didn't even know what lawyers did. I told you guys about this slide. Those are my siblings on my dad's side at the top, my siblings on my mom's side at the bottom. And to the left in this picture, on the right, you can see her cheek is my aunt. On the right side is my grandma, who just passed away last year due to cervical cancer. I remember doing my homework at the table. There would be tears and broken pencils all around. My mom would be helping my brother struggle with his homework. My brother had some learning disabilities early on that they improperly classified as like an ESE framework. So early on, I was taught to take care of my brother. My brother was taught that he had some learning challenge and some learning disability. So I was early on made responsible for other people. While my mom was fighting my brother with his homework, she'd always look over at me and my homework had always been done. She'd ask me if I needed help. I'd always say no. I never needed help. School was great. I enjoyed learning. Even as a young child, I felt as though learning allowed me to escape the places far from where I was from. And this desire to learn continued to burn throughout grade school. I earned a seat at a performing arts magnet school, Parkway Middle School, which is not far from here, and a seat at a pre-law magnet program at Fort Lauderdale, where I went to high school. I once tested highest in 11th grade on a college entrance program at Kaiser, where I could start earning an associate's degree while still in high school. Out of a class of 100 students, I tested highest. I remember my stepmom and I took the city bus all the way to Kaiser University, only to realize that my parents had to pay for this program. We had no money, so I sat out. But now I realize that opportunity missed me. So I continued to give my father straight A's for 12 years straight, with a few B's here and there. But I was happy if it made my dad happy. And I was gonna give him that law degree. Next slide. So I moved a lot as a kid, mostly in Hollywood. So many places I really can't even really identify, but this is the beginnings as far as I can remember, where my mom would sit with my brother. This is a duplex, we lived in the corner. I would do my homework, my brother would do his homework. I knew that my parents, they were really together just to kind of, save face. But police were often called. One day, my mom was taken away in a squad car. She came back a couple days later. But I wasn't old enough really to understand what was going on. But this is as far as back as I can identify where I lived. Next slide. These are some more places. I can't remember the order, but I was able to find a lot of them on Google. I can't remember all of them, but these are some of the places. Sometimes like a few weeks at a time, sometimes a few months. but never long enough to really set down in your roots. So as you can tell and as you can imagine, I really wanted to stay at school as long as I could. Next slide. So I was 15 when I was almost abducted in Hollywood. A crime occurs every 2.5 hours. On this particular day was me, October 29, 2014, sophomore year in high school. Third attempted abduction in Hollywood. CBSMiami.com, Hollywood, CBS Miami. For the third time in nearly 2 weeks, a young girl was nearly abducted in Hollywood, and police believe the same man is responsible for each attack. I was walking to my bus stop in the morning to go to school. I was on the magnet program, so the bus would come and pick me up. We had no cars, but that's the way that I was able to get to school. Almost abducted going to school. I could have let this experience destroy me, but I internalized it instead, and I used it to push me to obtain a positive outcome in my life. Trauma studies told me that I was more likely to start abusing drugs and alcohol at this point to cope with what had happened to me, and the fact that I was almost taken from my family by a complete stranger. But education knew that I was needed for greater things, and it gave me the strength to reconcile with my mental health in ways that my parents could only dream of. Next slide, please. By the time I was 17, I was sleeping here, and this is where it all happens. I heard the words, "You can't stay here, you've got to go." I looked my father in the eyes, and I told him that I could take care of myself, and I was never coming back. I was a senior in high school, undetected, undetermined. I would drive around at night looking for an apartment complex or a park so that I could sleep. I would park my car, do my homework in the driver's seat, plug up my phone into the cigarette holder. I'd close my eyes, put my book bag in the passenger seat, climb to the back, eager to go back to school the next morning so that I could feel normal again. Next slide. Now before I got kicked out, this is what my routine was. So it was like 6 of us in this room. It was a 2-bed. My dad would sleep on the floor, my stepmom and my brother would sleep here, and me and my sisters would sleep over here. I would do my homework. My dad had that time like a truck. Wouldn't work, but he still had it, but it was parked. I would turn the light on and I would do my homework in the driver's seat. Now, I'm sure y'all remember, as y'all are graduating now, how much homework you get in high school. So by the time I was done with my homework, everybody was asleep. So I would finish it up here. If they wouldn't call me, I'm like, "Eric, get out of the car." I would finish it up in the bathroom, and then I would get ready to go to bed. Although my father wanted me to become a lawyer, the journey was anything but clear on how to get there, right? According to the Law School Admission Council, the average cost of law school tuition in 2023 was $230,163, with tuition accounting for $151,172 and living expenses accounting for $79,391. So I thought to myself at this point, I don't know how I'm gonna get the money to pay for this. Next slide. I buckled down, applied for scholarships, grants. I worked more than one job at once, picking up skills here and there, ultimately maximizing myself to achieve what I heard was unachievable. This is what my setup was in high school as a senior. So this was the car I had, and then this was my graduation photos that I took, all the while nobody knew that I was going through the things I was going through, because it was my life's work to make sure that nobody knew, because I didn't want no one to feel sorry for me. And I did this over and over and over until I got caught, which at the beginning of my speech. Next slide. Summer of 2016 is where I transitioned from becoming a homeless student in Broward County to a first-generation student attending Florida International University. This is where I became dependent upon FIU's program, which is it serves the same functions as the HEART program, but it's for college students receiving a homeless tuition waiver through the state of Florida. That program is called Fostering Panther Pride. Of the things that I prepared for my life, Fostering Panther Pride was not one of them. During this time, I took advantage of every opportunity that was given to me. And I constantly improved myself. I went to school summer, fall, spring. Summer, fall, spring. If they were paying for me to go to school, to keep me in a bed, I was going to school. Despite my humble beginnings, I still felt that I was lucky enough to receive the help that I was getting. And my eagerness to get to the finish line enabled me to finish my 4-year degree from undergraduate in 3 years. I obtained what I like to call my first passport, my bachelor's degree from FIU in 2019, and I went straight to law school. Scared out of my mind because I told you guys how much it costed, and I had no idea how I was gonna afford it. But I wanted it so bad. I sat next to kids whose parents were lawyers, and their parents' parents were lawyers, and their parents' were lawyers. And I can count on one hand how many black students there were, and I knew for a fact that I was the only student there who had the background that I did. So I can definitely tell you that Malcolm X had no idea that the COVID-19 pandemic would come at my first year of law school, and I know for a fact that neither he nor I prepared for my pregnancy in the middle of law school. And I immediately thought to myself, another statistic. I had advisors and teachers tell me to drop out. There was no way that I could manage a baby and law school. After all, a legal education required everything. And I had nothing to give the baby. Would I repeat my own history? Thousands of questions flooded my mind, more concerns than solutions sat in my brain. How could I be a lawyer now? It took the strength of 100 sons to pull me off the floor, to wipe my tears, and to get back into the classroom. I quickly adjusted to late night study sessions, doctor's visits, Zoom classes, late night breastfeedings, flashcards, diapers, books, exams, and baby food. And I followed this formula for another 4 semesters. I remember how I felt taking my last law school exam and preparing for the Florida bar. I started taking practice exams at 2 o'clock in the morning while my entire house slept. I looked at my daughter while she napped, and I told myself that I had to get this done. It had to happen. I was determined. I did everything everyone tells you not to do. I had a baby. I worked while I was in law school, and I worked while I was in the bar exam. And it all worked. I flew to Tampa in July of 2022. I took the bar for the state of Florida, and I passed on the first try. Today, I stand before you as the first lawyer in my family ever, an outcome that defied statistics, not by chance, but because of Malcolm X. It's amazing. A speech that he gave over 30 years ago, before I was even born, could impact my life so dramatically. My journey has been filled with fear and anxiety, but also strength and resilience. And I would tell you guys, the first slide here, can we go back to it real quick? I'm sorry. This personal quote is what has given me the power to do everything I told you guys. Education has unlocked so much for me. The word freedom comes to mind. It's given me an alternative route in my own life, which has in turn improved the quality of my child's. I share my story today not for pity, not for applause, but for transparency. Successful stories are not always straightforward. And just because we plan doesn't always mean that we won't face hurdles. Because you see, what I hadn't appreciated when I first encountered Malcolm X's quote was that we can always plan, but life will have its own set of challenges. Each of our paths in this room in life will look different. It will feel different. But what remains is the same. Is that the knowledge that we feed our beings, the education we give ourselves, it serves as a guide that lights through us, that what takes a dark journey and turn it into a light one, into a bright one. There was a point in time last year, November, where my desire for greatness, fueled by my educational endeavors, prompted me to walk out of my office in a high-rise law firm, walk right into my boss's office, and resign. I told him, and I'm telling you all, at 26 years old, I decided to start my own law firm. So if you didn't listen to a single word from my rant today, the one thing I want everyone in here to know and to take away is that nothing in life makes you better when it comes to you easily. You can prepare for every single situation in your life, but life will still throw you challenges. And those challenges will come in different forms. People, places, things, no matter what, education remains a passport. Gets you into the door, inside. It allows you to sit at the table with other people to make real changes. I've got my passport. Now it's time for you to go get yours. Thank you.
Let's give another hand to Mrs. Amber Land. What an incredible story about transformational life.